Hi, Chris. Good evening from my end. Uh, I would like to welcome everyone to the panel discussion, particularly the panelists. Panelists include Mr. Mitchell Guthrie. Mitchell Guthrie is an independent engineering consultant and a primary member of the SALNet Lightning Protection Working Group. He is the senior contributing member of former chair of NFPA Committee on Lightning Protection. He is a member of Underwriters Laboratories, TC 96A and 1449. He also a member of IECTC 64 MT4, effects of current passing through the body. He has chaired the IECTC 81 for 9 years. Mitch, you are welcome to the panel. Next panelist is Professor Marianne Cooper. Marianne holds an MD from Michigan State University. She has 40 years of career in injury prevention and working with the lightning and electrical injury survivors. She is the only physician to be elected as a fellow of the American Meteorological Society and is recognized as an international expert in lightning injury and safety. She serves as a managing director of ACLENet. So, Marianne, please, you're welcome to the panel. Our next panelist is Mr. Ronald Holle. Ron is a meteorological consultant in Oro Valley, Arizona. Ron has worked extensively in meteorological education issues, particularly those relating to lightning safety and the demographics of lightning victims and damages around the U.S. in 17 other countries. He is a member of the U.S. National Lightning Safety Council and is the executive committee of the African Centers for Lightning Electromagnetics Network. Next panelist, Ron, you are welcome to the panel. Next panelist is Professor Anirban Guha. He is the faculty member of the Department of Physics, Tripura University, and actually he is the architect of South Asian Lightning Networks Foundation. So, Professor Guha, you are welcome to the panel. Next panelist is Professor Chandima Gomes. He has already been introduced. Again, he is the distinguished professor at the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, South Africa, and he is one of the designer of all these networks and lightning safety groups across the globe. Professor Chandima, you were the designer of this Kathmandu event as well, along with Professor Arun Kulshrestha. So you're welcome to the panel. All of you are welcome to the panel. And I would like to start the discussion, taking up some questions. And we have 30 minutes time altogether, and you are supposed to you are allocated about 4 to 5 minutes altogether, and you are supposed to address the issues in the meantime. If you have some questions from the audience or other participants, you are requested to address those too. So my first question in the panel is to Mitchell Guthrie. As you know, Mitch, we have been, particularly as the motive of or objective of this ILSD for this year, theme of the ILSD this year is to save the people, is life from particularly in developing countries. The main focus is in the developing countries. So my discussion in this panel will be on that issue, and the people working like me, myself, Mr. Gopakumar, Dr. Anirban, Mr. Sanjay Srivastava, and so many other people working in developing countries are facing challenges, not only with the lack of knowledge, but superseded, myths and superstitions that prevail in these countries. So I would ask the questions and raise the issues in this perspective. And my first query and concern will go to Mitch. Mitch, you have been working in the technical committee for a very long period, and chair the TC81 for 9 years. You are aware that the electrical engineers in the developing countries are reluctant to adopt IEC 62305, owing to its extensive technicalities. Whereas the developing countries are much more vulnerable. Developing countries are much more vulnerable as compared to the developed countries. Does IEC 81 have any plan to customize the standards so that the engineers, electricians in the developing countries can adopt the standards without much technical complications? Mitch, over to you.
Thank you, Sri. And I apologize, my camera doesn't want to play today.
No issue.
The answer to your question, there is no plan to customize standards for developing countries, but we have been approved in TC81 to produce an application guide for 62305-3. And that should give us an opportunity to address some of the problems. It's important that the developing countries give us the input we need in order to understand what the problems are. And we'll have to figure out a mechanism, perhaps, the way we get that. We could possibly use IEC regional centers, or maybe SALNet, ACLENet, maybe Latin America. Those could be areas that we gather that information, but there is nothing there's no mechanism, I think, at this point to develop anything specifically for the developing countries. One thing the IEC has put together is the affiliates program, and I think that's a very important program for developing countries. And they really should participate in that. It gives them the opportunity to join either 5 or 10 technical committees to work through, including responding to committee drafts for votes. So they basically get to participate in the cycle. So you can learn there, you can listen, ask questions, make comments for at least one cycle of an edition. So that's I think really the way to do. I mean, it's important to get your input in, and that provides you the information or the avenue to get your input in. There's also IEC regional centers that I just talked about in kind of critical areas for developing countries. There's one in Singapore that's for South Asia, one in Nairobi for Africa, and one in Sao Paulo for Latin America. So, use those as much as you can. Ask them questions, ask them what you can do. They're there to provide guidance for developing countries. And that's a way to get feedback to technical committees and things like that. One of the other things that I think concerns me is some of the principal members of the TCs are, they're all developing countries. I mean, excuse me, they're all developed countries. And some of those really don't understand the problems of developing countries. And so from that point of view, they may make sets of requirements that seem harmless to them, but really affect developing countries and their ability to meet the standards. So I think it's important, to get your input, to especially to let them know. In the third edition of 62305-3, there was essentially an assault on the use of natural down conductors or natural hardware, specifically down conductors. And that's very important, I think, to developing countries. Why do you have to spend money to buy a 50 square millimeter conductor when I have a steel beam in this building that's a better conductor than that? So it's important to get your input and use the application guide. Give us the questions. Make sure we address the questions. I know the convener of that very well, and I'm sure he will listen to what you ask. So I guess in a nutshell, that's pretty much what I have to offer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mitch. One more thing I would like to ask from you is that since most of the developing countries have not adopted IEC, this standard, this 62305, so is there any plan from IEC that some policy intervention be done on these developing countries?
No, at one time with the affiliate program, you had to adopt the standard as is. And so I think that shunned away a lot of the developing countries because they're just not able to do that, at this point. That I think has changed. As I was reading yesterday, I think you may be allowed to make, there's very strict restrictions on what you can do, but you may be able to do some things. So I think part of that was the reason we're not getting adopted is specifically that fear of having the, not being able to make a change, and or maybe not feeling the confidence to make the changes. But I noticed that specifically with the SACLEnet, the code standard panels for in Africa. They had a lot of the national electric, certain codes that they were adopting, but specifically all of them that had lightning protection problems, none of them were adopting 62305.
Okay. So I can take a couple of questions from the participants if you wish to. Anyone, any question, please? To Mitch.
Okay, Sriram, can I ask something or can I ask something?
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Just have a short question, please.
Okay, all right. Since I'm from the academia, so I'm interested to know in this forum, do you have any people from the policymakers or maybe any government agencies those that attend with this forum? Is there anyone from Bangladesh?
I don't know of anyone, or is that question directed to Sriram?
It should be to you, I think.
Okay.
I'll try to throw it back.
Why I'm asking, it's my first time I'm joining here. So I cannot see anyone because you know that Bangladesh, we are really struggling, but I personally really looking forward for the concrete policy so that it really works or really can be helpful for the suffering people. So yeah, it is just my concern. Thank you.
Okay.
Try your regional centers. We can make contact information available. If you go on the IC website, you can find it there, although it may not be easy to find.
Okay. Now I would like to invite Chandima for my question as a part of this discussion. Chandima, you have a great experience of working in the developing as well as developed countries. You are also a member of IEC technical committee and familiar with the practices in the developing countries. Most engineers prefer to go for non-standard LPS. How do you think we can educate the engineers and intervene the government say on adopting the lighting standards? Chandima.
Thank you very much, Sri, for this interesting question. Actually, we have been working towards this issue for the last 25 years. I personally involved in my case. What I see, Sri, when it comes to this non-conventional lightning protection system, especially ESC and lightning repellers, as engineers, scientists, when I say scientists, technologists, physicists, and so on, I think we have done our duties. We do not have much more to do in the research frontiers. When the Brazilian team and several other teams in the world came up with this super fast videography that answeringly the speed is in the order of 10 to the power 4 meters per second, I think the entire concept of ESC devices collapsed. I mean, even if these so-called lab experiments are correct up to 100% in initiating a streamer earlier than that from a conventional metal rod with the speed of 10 to the power 4 meters per second, the height advantage of the best ESC device that they are talking about is about 1.5 meters. Is going to pay $1,500 more than for a copper rod to have 1.5 meter height advantage. Okay, so that the whole concept of ESC is now collapsed. So that in the engineering and scientific frontiers, we don't have much to do. And then these last 5-6 years, we have seen that from the South Asian region, some people come up with few things that they call ESA. I'm sure that they don't know anything. They know next to nothing about ESA. So that some people say that they have devices that accelerate the streamer, which is totally absurd, I may say. Because as high voltage engineers, we know that such phenomena are totally unscientific. Nobody can do that in unbound space. And then by the name of ESC, different people comes out with different ridiculous phenomena. So we can't fight scientifically with them because they are nonsense. I mean, usually when it comes to nonsense, you can't fight with sense with them. So that in the engineering and research frontiers, I think we don't have much to do. Then what shall we do? Actually, now we need the involvement of sociological scientists, psychologists, diplomatic specialists, political science frontiers, then media, very important,
Yeah.
and even psychiatrists.
Mm.
So there are a bunch of sociological experts we need now, and also legal experts, marketing experts, to help us in taking this message of non-scientific lightning protection concept as wrong, as a wrong concept to the general public in one frontier, and to the administrative and government frontiers, the authorities, on the other hand. So that I think now we have to invite these specialists from these areas to address this issue. So that's the quickest answer that I can give to your question. This is the way that we have to go forward.
Yeah, thank you, Chandima. Again, this is very challenging to bring all these advocates from different sectors together in a single forum, and it will be rather messy, I suppose, to bring all these social advocates and so on.
We can't bring them to one forum. What we have to do is that each of us will approach at least one of these people and educate them, because they are not knowledgeable about this issue.
Not at all.
You have to tell them this is the issue and ask them, get their advice on how to approach the public in one side and government authorities in the other side in tackling this problem. I'm sure that this is not the first time this type of issue has been encountered by the people. There may be in many other areas this has happened.
True. Thank you so much, Chandima. I think he is very much clear about his plan. Only the thing is we have to act according to these ideas. Of course, working in different areas, different parts, you come up with such ideas. So thank you so much for your idea. Now, I would like to invite Marian. Is there any question to Chandima? If you have one question or two, you can please. Is there anybody?
I have a comment, and that's that
Okay.
I think Chandima is very wise with what he's saying. Unfortunately, if I can make an analogy, it's going to be as difficult to find a social scientist who's interested in what we're doing as it is to find an engineer who knows about lightning protection. You're going to have to keep asking and get the right expertise and get them turned on. And I've tried with some public health people, and they wanted us to have 3 different control groups. It's kind of like you can't do that in a developing country. Come on. So it's keep plugging away, because you'll eventually find somebody, but it's a needle in a haystack kind of thing to try and find the right person. So we'll just and then funding for them to be able to do it, because these folks don't get paid a lot. So they're going to look for funding for the research.
That's true. True. Yeah. Thank you, Marianne, for this comment. Would you like to respond to this comment, Chandima? Anything?
You're muted.
You're muted. Chandima, you're muted. Chandima, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. What Marianne says is 100% correct. I'm quite in agreement with her. So the path that we followed so far is pretty tough. We all had our own tough time, and we were insulted, attacked, and some of our colleagues like Abdul Mauza has been taken to the courts. There were so many things. So that the future with the sociological frontiers will not be easier as well. So we will have a pretty tough game to play. But let's play it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chandima. Now I invite Professor Marian for a question. You have a vast experience of advocating in a developed country and are now extensively working in the developing countries like Uganda and so other African countries. What are the challenges you are facing while working in the developing countries, particularly in implementing the IEC standards? Because what I can see is you have been implementing IEC standards in installing lightning protection system in the schools these days. So have you ever come across the engineers other than whom you are working with who are practicing the IEC standards in Uganda and those countries? What is the common practice of LPS in such countries?
Okay. Thank you, Sriram, and thank you for sharing this. As you know, I'm an emergency physician. I'm not a lightning protection specialist or engineer or designer, and I don't pretend to be. I've had the great good fortune to know people like all of you and to have people on our design team like Mitch and others over time. And they're my LP people that I go to. I do not pretend to be a lightning protection specialist, but I've had to learn a lot about it over the last 10 or 15 years. The major challenges we have that we face in developing countries is inertia. Once something is solid, it doesn't want to move. And that includes government officials. They're getting their paycheck, and the last thing they want to do is do more work or take more time or try to convince people to change their behaviors. So it's tough. The engineers and designers, you all have more experience with that, but as you've already pointed out, IEC standards are complicated. The engineers don't want to have to purchase the software to do the designs, and you guys know more about that than I do. But and most of all, they're trying to make a living and feed their families, so they've got to make the bids to where their clients are going to accept their bids, which means that there's several things they may fall into. One is it's always been done this way. That's the way my grandfather and my father taught me to do it, so it must be right. The other aspect is, if I'm going to get the bid, then I can't sell them expensive equipment and I can't sell them IEC standards, which cost 3 to 5 to 10 times what the local hardware store is selling. And then last but not least is the fraudulent people who are wanting to make a killing over selling some fancy story that sounds scientific but isn't. Okay. And all of that revolves down into money too. The developing countries just don't have money for even to address their major big problems like malnutrition and disease and civil conflict and refugees and educating their growing populations. So lightning protection is a very tiny part of what they do, and lack of knowledge. So have I seen IEC standards practiced in all my travels across Africa and other countries? Remember, I'm not a lightning protection professional. I can recognize bad lightning protection, but I'm not sure I'm qualified to recognize good lightning protection. So you guys are a whole lot better at that. Okay. Okay. So I'm just being honest. So, the common practice, even in the US and many developing countries, is, well, I was at a fundraising dinner where I was trying to raise funds for ACLENet, and one of the people at the meetings was an architect who's a good friend of mine, and I've gone to church with him for I don't know how many years now. And he sat there and said, I bet the average architect doesn't know you have to do this kind of stuff for lightning protection. He says, I don't. So even the well-educated, well-off professionals, even in the US, don't know how to do this. So one of the other problems is that we find in the developing world is the do-it-yourself packages that I guess you can even buy them in the United States now too, from what Rich told me at this dinner. People can go out and buy their own do-it-yourself lightning protection, which is a lightning arrestor or lightning rod or air terminal, whatever you call it, the down conductor and an earthing rod of some kind. They have no idea how to put it in. And obviously it doesn't meet standards. So it's a conglomeration of my father taught me how to do this. I don't know IEC standards. They're too complicated. I can just go out and buy it from the hardware store. So that's the common practice. Sorry, but it's really hard trying to make. You all know that. You've been doing the same thing for
Yes, we have been
so many
facing
years, So that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Marianne, for sharing your experience. And we know you have been there to support the lightning community, although you are from the medical background, but now you are becoming more a lightning expert in many senses. Anyway, you are there, so the solidarity from different communities are coming up, and I am happy to see many eminent personalities in this forum today. Professor Colin Price, Ken Nixon, Professor Ken Nixon, and so many other people whom I know personally, and they are here. Thank you so much for being here today. Now I would like to invite Ronald Holle for his response to my concern or query. Ron, you have vast experience working with the lightning detection, early warning, and mapping across the globe. How do you think the developing countries can benefit from the available resources? Do you think that the low-income countries can afford for the early warning system to save their the lives of their citizens?
Thank you, Sri. I've been thinking about this question. Not an easy one, okay? First of all, I would say that we need to go way back to the fundamentals of when thunder roars, go indoors. There's no technology involved. But in developing countries, this is not necessarily a good idea because the indoors is not safe. So that one is more for developed countries. So I'm going backwards through the process here. The next issue is you need to have an end-to-end process to respond to a warning. Let's say you have a perfect warning. What happens? Who decides? A group of school children or sports events. Who decides that something has to be done and whatever it is was stopped? How long does it take to get to the place you're going to, and what is the safe place? You have to have that entire process, end to end, we call it, in mind as the answer. So going back now to the detection part, let's say you have a detection system. I've been working with the National Lightning Detection Network data from the United States for more than 40 years. And it's a very mature, well-documented network that works very well. I don't think that many countries in the developing world are going to have an NLDN type of a network. However, and I don't think I recommend that they spend an enormous amount of money trying to reinvent something that's already incredibly mature. Instead, one solution is to have a subscription system where there is no hardware, just a computer, and you receive warnings for a point or an area from say, the global network, GLD 360, or eventually maybe from the satellites and so on. You don't need to buy a network and have 10 people monitoring this network in your little country. That's a waste of resources, and it's not worth it. So the advent of the internet and fast communications has now allowed global detection, as Stefan Schmidt said, such that it is very viable, and it varies in price. It's not free. The network operators are spending money. They have sensors in unusual places, and so it does cost money. But this is available, and it doesn't have to be from the Weather Service. It can be an individual or a factory or a mine, something like that. I know that some mines in Africa are using GLD 360 data for safety and has been using them for up to 10 years already. So this is nothing new in that sense. So it is a difficult problem, but I think we need to make sure we have the whole end-to-end process. Let's say you have a perfect detection and you have nowhere to go that's safe. So you still have a problem. So you need to think of that whole sequence. All right, that's all I'll say.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Ron. If there is any query about what Ron said, you would like to ask from him, please go ahead. Otherwise, I go further ahead to Professor Anirban Guha. If there is no question, then I'd like to invite Professor Guha. Anirban, you have been very much engaged in developing the and optimizing the lightning detection network, ILDN. And your team has also developed the mobile app for lightning alerts. What is the source of your motivation? How can the society get benefited from the app? And what is your advice to the governments to avail this technology?
Okay, thank you. Is my voice audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Professor Sharma, for inviting me in this panel discussion. So as I mentioned that I was a bit late coming to the program because I'm attending the annual review meeting in Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, Trivandrum ISRO. And during the meeting and in the campus, it is restricted area. I don't have access to mobile and internet. However, I could join and I see very new faces and known faces. After a long time, maybe we are thinking about something in Tripura again, and we can discuss about it later. Thank you for inviting me. I hope everyone is okay and in good health. So coming to your question, basically the main motivation came from basically when we teach in the classroom, we always think about what the students will do next, because we teach them, they go some place and we do some research and they go to some other place. So students were the main motivators, because what I expressed one day that it is true that some technologies are already existing, but for developing countries, especially like India, where the Prime Minister is having a mission like Atmanirbhar Bharat, that means self-independent India, that we are more consumer of things rather we are exporters. So why not, like in space technology, you see now we have become almost independent. Why not in every sector we have our own indigenization program? So what happened actually with the help of students and other volunteers, Via Vita Solution and Orco also from company side, they are from corporate also, we are having some funding. We developed this network.
Okay.
However, I will be very careful at this moment, because we are almost having 2 years of data which are being critically analyzed by experts at the government level. We are comparing our data with all the networks that are available and open for sharing the data before coming to any conclusion about it. Okay, that means the validation is very important. Okay, like a few minutes back, I have seen the presentation from Professor Srivastava where he has shown a 20% decrease in lightning. I believe if Professor Srivastava is present, this needs to be validated from other networks also, because this one-to-one correlation with lightning density and death is something very complicated. Even if some area has low lightning density, it may have greater death and other thing. Okay, so it's not all the time goes hand to hand. So I believe that if a collaboration happens and then we can all work together, it will be better. As far as technology transfer is concerned, we have already discussed with Ministry of Earth Sciences, and they are very eager to support this initiative. We have not yet decided anything, but as always, from academic and research point of view, what I always believe that students' manpower and voluntarily contribution to any work is very, very important in addition to what we do in our professional lives. So all these non-standard approaches that people have been fighting. I was very junior when I came to know about all this, but whenever I go to any forum and discuss, I always emphasize on validation and maintaining the international standard, at least whatever possible from my side. I know that you are people who are working at the best level, even court case have gone, there has been a big story, but I have not gone to that stage. But from my side, whatever I do, I just would like to have a validation of the network before it goes to the real life. So now data is being shared with the government for the last 2 years as a live feed. So this is the current status. And not only this ILDN, I will be happy to, have indigenization in other areas. Like we are planning to have induction of lightning protection program and awareness program in the school level syllabus, which we have already discussed with the state government, which is important for imparting knowledge to the future generation who will be having a natural flow of, having this kind of awareness in their mind. So that's my response to your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Guha, for your relentless efforts in developing such things. And I would like to inform to all the participants from South Asian region that the ILDN network covers the whole region, and the app will be, the mobile app, alert app will be, applicable to these countries as well. So you can visit the SALNet's website and get the information about it. Thank you so much, Professor Guha, for your presence. And I can see Professor Ajit Tyagi from SAMA, South Asian Meteorological Association. You are also welcome to this community. And with this, I would like to conclude the panel session. Thank you all the panelists for being with us and making this event very lively. And I would now would like to give the floor to Mr. Ronald Holle, who will be moderating the next session. Ron, it's over to you.